We are in Hopin. I am going to go ahead and take it away at the top of the hour. So, welcome everybody to DrupalCon. My name is Monica Flores, and for the next couple minutes, I'll be discussing 100% remote tips for managing a distributed workforce, fully distributed workforce. And we'll talk a little bit about me, a little bit about you, and then 7 tips that we've learned in our work at Lullabot. So about me, I'm a technical project manager. I joined Lullabot July of 2019. We work on a variety of projects. And in May of last year, right before COVID, I received my ScrumMaster certification. I've been working as a web developer since 2004. So this is a bit of an interesting role change for me to actually be, oh, what just happened? Oh my goodness, excuse me. We'll just hide this. Hang on one moment, I don't know what happened. Okay, there we go. You can see all my mail on the side, excuse me. I honestly don't know what's happening. It's just like taking over. Okay, we'll keep on going with this. And part of my work in Lullabot is to manage projects. Our team is completely remote, and we have created some of the largest and most well-known digital experiences in the world. I apologize for this mail button. I don't know what is happening. So
Monica, when you took the mail away, your slides also were hidden.
Oh no. Okay, hang on a second. Let me see what all it totally took over right when I was working on the slides. So I will try and close this. Apologies. That is the strangest thing. I apologize. I'm usually okay with technology. So, okay, back to, do you see my screen? Like thumbs up?
Good to go.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Now I'm like freaked. We have, I'd like to know a little bit about you. So about me again, I'm just as some acknowledgements. I am based in Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm wearing glasses. I have black hair. I have a orange and gray striped shirt. I am based on Mahowick lands, which is here in Virginia. I'd love to hear from folks in the chat, like your pronouns, any of the land acknowledgement if you have. And then today we'll just be going through 7 of the different topics we've learned at Lullabot, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So great to see folks. Thanks everybody for coming and joining me. And this is my cats. We just adopted them last year, Bourbon and Coda. Hello. Now, when we lead, we always want to talk about values. And at Lullabot, these are the 3 main values. It is inspire and empower each other, being human, thanks everybody, kicking ass, inventing and innovating, collaborating openly, and having fun. And the reason why I talk about why we want to lead with our values is because if you don't explicitly say what these are, then somebody else will do that for you. So the point is to make sure that you are leading with the types of values, articulating them and sharing them in all of your text, your documentation, your brochures, your webcasts, any of things. As a group, we do meet once a year. There's about 55 of us now. We just hired 2 more people today, spread out across 9 time zones, including in Europe. We do meet once a year at an annual retreat. This is the last retreat we had in February of 2020. And we use the time to foster connections, meet in person, and basically just connect and have fun. We take some time off of client work, and this really sets the tone for the rest of the year because it's easier for you to interact with somebody when you have more of a personal connection with them. These are the 7 tips we'll be going over. It is setting expectations, very important. Then protecting time. And this is part of my overall idea is that we respect each other by protecting each other's time. Creating routines, number 3. The more routines you have, the easier it is for folks to deal. 4, investing in the people, the teams, the software, whatever you can to make sure people get what they need. We'll also talk about working in groups, documenting our actions so that something can continue without you being there, as well as listening to others. So first of all, setting expectations. I don't know about you, but when I started at Lullaby, I got everything way in advance. I had a setup sheet. I had my computer that was forwarded out of the PEX amount that I was able to use. I had a checklist of items. And all of this is very important when you're setting somebody up. You want to set them up for success and make sure they have all the tools and tips and resources at their fingertips. So as an example, we have a documented employee manual. Like, so great to have an employee manual. I know a lot of us here have worked at places that are more startup or more feel it as you go. It's great to start codifying all of your work. I got a little swag pack when I first met. I had little stickers, t-shirt, and jacket. I also met with some of my folks at the DrupalCon that was here in the DC area a little bit after I joined. So whatever you can do to foster folks to be onboarded and to set the expectation of what constitutes communication inside your organization. We also use a tool called Know Your Team, and I use that for my one-on-ones. For that, it offers you a number of types of questions that you can use to when you're interacting with your managers. Number 2, protecting time. In the era of COVID, some of us are taking care of elders. Some of us are taking care of families, small children, pets. We have a lot of appointments. We have a lot of demands on our time, right? And the good thing about the work we do is that it can be asynchronous. So whatever you can do to carve out pieces of time is a great thing you can do for your team. In our case, we heavily use calendars. And I'm showing you an example of what it looks like from my view as a technical project manager. I subscribe to each of my staff's calendars. I check to see when they have blocks available. And then we only have certain things that are scheduled and we protect that time in advance. Some of the routines or rituals that we have include stand up once a day during a weekday, max 60 seconds, max 90 seconds, just a chance for folks to talk about what they worked on, what they're planning to work on, and if they have blockers. We also have the planning meeting, which is all part of the Scrum cycle, right? A planning meeting and an hour-and-a-half review at the end of the 2-week cycle. Beyond that is more after talks and ad hoc project-related discussions. In our team, we also have ways for the entire group to get connected. So for example, on Mondays, we have an automatically generated randomized list of folks who can check in for 3 minutes apiece on Monday morning. That sets the tone for the week and just shares. We also have a Friday, what's called a serendipity. So then people are able to connect with each other, but across different business units or across different levels of the organization. So we also have kind of ad hoc coffee time, not so important, optional, but an opportunity for people to connect. So think about other people's time. Think about what you can do to respect their time. And then, as I mentioned, you can create routines around that time. Scrum, Sprint works really well for creating routines. A couple other things that we've done include using Slack very heavily. As I mentioned, we have the team call and the serendipity call. But in lieu of the team call, once a month, we have what we call town hall. And folks can just ask all their questions inside what you see here, a town hall Slack channel. And those get answered by our leadership. We also try and be respectful of folks' ability to communicate. So for example, during the COVID, we put all of the coronavirus related content into a separate channel because not everybody wants to interact with that type of content in the work setting, right? So then we had a separate channel for people to talk about COVID-19 related stuff, but then we had the work channels for all the work. There's also a way that you can use Slack to integrate with your Google Calendar. I use it to give me reminders. So for example, if it's time to update the notes that we have to keep our client services team updated, it gives me a little bit of an indication prior to that meeting happening. And in the meantime, I ask for folks, it looks like we have some great comments coming in. I see virtual coffee breaks, wellness channels. Just again, in an era where many of us are now working remote, it's always an opportunity to foster those connections. People first, people over processes, people over tools, people over client work. It's the people who are gonna drive your business. So when we invest in people, we invest in their tools, We invest in their workspace, we invest in their training, and we invest in, again, anything that they need in terms of time. So just as a broad overview, Lullabots take 30 hours a week to submit billable work, and we use tools like NoCo to handle that. We use Expensify for handling receipts. So for example, if I bought a webinar or if I bought another machine or something related to my workspace, I would use my card for that and then put it into the receipts. We also have a high ability to use our funding for events related and EDU related expenses. So for example, when I received Scrum certification, I used my allocation for that. And we use these tools like Bamboo, NoCo, Expensify, and others to keep that information all together. And again, the captions are not spelling it correctly. I will put this in after this chat into the chat with the actual list. Okay, working in groups. So Lullabot has puts a high premium on people's ability to work as part of a team. We're not the Rockstar and Ninja group. We're about teamwork, being able to communicate, and also being able to communicate across locations. It's very important when you are working 6 hours off of my developer or 3 hours off of my technical architect on the West Coast to have asynchronous communication as much as possible. So as an example of how we do this, I have learned from the Drupal Diversity and Inclusion group, which is on the Drupal Slack channel. On this right side of the screen, there's a way to do a staggered agenda, which is a great way to have a meeting, but not require people's personal presence at a particular time because, you know, whatever, life or work. So what you can do is set up the agenda so that, for example, at 12 o'clock, there's a roll call, then wait about 5 minutes. Then you can put in the second agenda item, the third agenda item, and as follows. And what this does is it allows you to have, you know, this half-hour meeting and allows people to chime in as needed. We've used this on an ad hoc basis for things like an engineering values group, where we met once every 2 weeks to go over the values. And what you'll find naturally occurring in your organization is some of your groups will be more ad hoc or will be for a specific purpose and then we'll close. So that's what we did with engineering values. We actually published that at the end of the group's work in a blog post. But we also have ongoing groups such as inclusion, diversity, and equity. We have a group now that's on accessibility. We have another group that's on government projects. And then you may also have groups that kind of bubble up from the team's interests. So for example, let's say people have a talk during coffee chat, which is an optional group, and they decide they want to have a contributions related set aside time. We can use that time to organize as a group and do it asynchronously when needed. This is always my biggest thing, document your work. Oh, please write it down. If it's in your head, locked up in your brain somewhere, what if you know, in the worst case, are not able to participate or get hit by a bus? We always say that. Document your work. So what we use are wikis. And inside the wiki, we may have things like the tugboat link to do quality assurance. We might have the link to the JIRA, an overview of who's who, any of the design files, any of the QA files, even case study related items. Whatever you can do to make the information more real and outside of one person or another person's head, the easier it is for everybody. So I challenge you to think about what can you do so that somebody brand new to the team, let's say they start tomorrow, can come into your workflow and get all the documents they need without feeling uncomfortable or feeling like they can't find something or feeling like they don't know what to ask. So think proactively about put your documentation together. And then finally, this is so, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth because we want to listen to each other twice as much than we talk. Please do listen to your teammates, to your staff, to your direct reports, to the executive team. I've really found in my work as a PM for the last 1.5 years that I actually have to say things sometimes to our clients or sometimes to our internal team 4, 5, 6 times for it to actually settle into people's brains So listen, and also be a good communicator. I think those two are parts of the same whole. This is just a sample of the earphones that I got when I first joined, because I wanted to get as high a quality of gear as I could in order to participate with Lullaby. So one more time, setting your expectations from the beginning. 2, protecting each other's time, yourself and the folks in your groups and teams. Creating routines. Investing in the people and tools and processes that you have at your workplace. Working collaboratively in groups, figuring out ways to do this asynchronously, or providing opportunities for people to participate on a one-off or regular basis, just to work together. Document all of your work if you can, put it into a wiki, a landing job folder where everybody who is relevant to the project can access it and get up to speed. And 7, listen to others. So I just have an example of what this looked like for one of the past projects. For Lullabot, the team that worked on this project was all over. We had our president in Texas. We had a developer front-end dev who was based in Minnesota. We had an architect who was on the West Coast in Oakland. And then we had a senior developer based in Spain. So just count the number of time zones of that, right? And it worked out. We used our same roadmap and our same model, wikis, Jira, stand-ups, and ability to communicate, and whatever we could to share information. And a nice quote from the end client: when the Grammys decided to change to the Drupal platform, I wanted to make sure we got the best in the business to build our flagship Grammy.com. 100 million page views later, it's clear we made the right choice. So take it from us, it is possible to provide high quality work for an enterprise level client using remote tools. Now, if you need to convince your employer remote work is the future of the United States workforce, that's my prediction, but I can also back it up with some stats. What we currently have is that 16% of United States companies are hiring remote distributed workers only. To the right here, 40% of people feel that the greatest benefit of remote work is a flexible schedule. And for companies who allow remote work, we see a 25% lower employee turnover. And I know on this call, even 3 out of 4 of us, 76% of us, would be more willing to stay with our current employer if we could work flexible hours. Finally, there's 4.3 million people in the United States who work from home at least half time. And I challenge you, if your company is reluctant to implement remote or has a bit of caution about it, it's $1 trillion loss across the entire industry when our employees leave us. So what we want to do is set up all of the systems, tools, processes, and ways to make it easier for our staff to stay with us. When you hire somebody and then they walk out the door, all of that knowledge and learning and training is gone. It's evaporated for your company. And so what you want to do is invest as much as possible using the tips that I've shared and some of the tools that I'll be dropping into the chat for your people. Okay. We have questions, we can drop them into the chat. And I've also been asked if you'd like to have more of an after talk. Pantheon is offering to host us directly in their sponsor booth directly after this. I think we can look in the expo. I'm going to go through and read some of these questions now. And any other questions, please do drop them into the chat. Okay, so I'm seeing from Aten, Sally says that Aten has started virtual coffee breaks, wellness channels to give the team more opportunity to share and connect. So great idea. Coffee breaks are scheduled for us twice in a week, half hour, open Zoom or open Google Meet. If you have a standardized open meetings calendar that anybody in the group can access, that might be a good place to put it. If you don't have one, consider implementing this and just put all your open meetings in there. What we've also done is a hookup between Google Open Meetings and the Slack general channel. So it automatically says, coffee chat happening, 10 minutes, here's the Zoom link. You want to have a low, kind of frictionless way for people to come on and just chat. No agenda, no expectations, just to connect. And it sounds like from some folks, it was helpful to join that with the team. I'm seeing Memphis representing the great state of Texas. So currently leading and managing a team, Albert is managing a team of developers and content managers for the Grizzlies. Absolutely the case. I definitely think that as folks start to hire, they'll realize that not all the best talent is in the main metros, and people can be living anywhere and still participate in the workforce and be available during working hours and be communicative on Slack or any of the Zoom calls you have. So do consider, I know at Lullaby, it's a kind of anecdotal that people get work at Lullaby. Then they move to a smaller town where the cost of living is smaller. Great example for us, we just bought in Michigan and we'll be moving there because the cost of living is much lower than it has been when we lived in Oakland or San Diego or here in Woodbridge. Any questions? Again, we have from Richard. I would hope that many businesses would look to see how remote work has gone in the past year and change to really understand how good work has been done. Yes, absolutely, Richard. I think that COVID has completely upended people's understanding of what constitutes work and what constitutes availability and what constitutes productivity. So I don't know if you need to be completely productive by going to a 8x8 cubicle. Like, I would question, perhaps you're more of a morning person. You like to get up really early when it's dark outside and do your exercise, you have your whatever, your drink, and then have your work, and then take a little break in the middle of the day, and then maybe do something in the afternoon or evening. You might be a night owl. You might work really well from like midnight to 5 in the morning. I would say that whatever our companies can do to support work within reason and to be fair to clients, but to provide finalized work at an hour and in a manner that is supportive of the staff, those companies that understand that and set up their systems to hire those people will survive and thrive. I don't see any other questions. I'm happy to, again, continue discussing and or share with you. I will share with you now my list, but otherwise that's the talk. Thank you so much for participating and being available to me and dealing with my issues. What I'll do then is I'll also share the list of responses of tools that we have. And if you needed to ask for, if you needed to get the slides also have all of these links inside of them as well. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll give a couple more minutes if folks have other questions. Thank you, everybody. Yes, a tool we use for meetings that provides questions. Yes, it's Know Your Team. Give me one moment. I'm gonna get the list of tools that we use at Lullabot to do this type of work and drop that into the chat as well. But Know Your Team, KNOWYOURTEAM, and it allows you to do things like specify one-on-ones, provide some questions to help with that, provide reminders, and in general support that. Here's that list for those, for Amy. Oh, sorry, that was a little bit. Put some extra. Bamboo HR. let me put it, I'll put some spaces into there. So Bamboo, Know Your Team, Noco Time, Resource Guru, Expensify, TripIt. Fun Retro is what I personally use. I'm always looking for better retrospective software, so do share with me what you use. Then we also get Fitbits for folks who are looking for their health. And again, the slides for this talk are here. I'll drop them in. And yeah, I'll be available for a talk in the Pantheon slot if you'd like to head over to Pantheon booth and chat with me there. Happy to talk. Thank you.